Welcome everybody to another episode of the AgView Pitch, and today we're doing a little video with the podcast. So if you're listening to this, you'll have to bear with us, and we will have this on YouTube as well. Today you've got obviously Chris Barron and Brant Fail. He's my brother-in-law, and I've gotten more phone calls I think than I've probably ever gotten in text messages from clients just wondering how'd you fare and everything. And in our farm operation, we were pretty lucky. I mean, we were about 10 miles north of all the devastation and all the craziness and stuff. And then you guys farm basically about probably another maybe 10 miles south of us almost, but you're also west of us a ways. So Brant, tell us a little bit about your experience where you were at. And you guys are sort of on the edge of it too, but talk a little bit about what your experience was when the storm kind of went through here.
Okay. Yeah, like Chris said, my name's Brant Fail. We raise corn and soybeans in east central Iowa. We're 20 miles about south of Waterloo, and the storm started about probably 5 or 6 miles north of us is where the line is here. And it stretched almost 100 miles south. So winds were sustained in this area around 100 miles per hour for over 20 minutes. The further south you go, they were 115 to 130 mile per hour. We have 2,500 acres of corn, and it's all damaged. Every single acre. We do not have one field that doesn't have damage, and it was already tangled up from a windstorm here about a month ago. We had some structural damage. We have 4 grain bins
Which you can see.
3 of the 4 that got crinkled. It looks like a giant came up and just pushed on the corner of the bin and said, let's see if I can kill this one. And this is the second time in 9 years that this has happened to us, to have this bad of winds. So our soybeans were flat as well, which I had never seen that ever. They were as flat as a pancake. Now today they're standing up straight, but I'm concerned about the yield on the soybeans as well now for getting beat up as hard as they did for as long as they did.
One of the things that we noticed around here, and I know it's a conversation we'll be having next week with Iowa State as they're doing more assessments and evaluations of the storm area, size and scope and everything, but you guys have a lot of corn that's either flat or leaning. Have you been out in it and kind of an idea? I mean, I keep hearing some people say, well, some of that's going to stand back up. Well, a lot of it's not going to stand back up.
It's not standing back up. What has stood up is, if it stood up, I could tell a little bit of difference just directly across the road from my house, which is straight east of here, on Tuesday morning, that the edge had stood up, but I'm not going to waste my time going out and walking through it because it's only going to make me more upset than I already am.
Right.
But if we go about 10 miles south of here, it is completely steamrolled. It's as flat as this gravel parking lot.
Grain bins included.
Grain bins, buildings, houses, you name it.
Yeah.
It's amazing nobody died.
Yeah, and we'll get some footage of that. So if you are watching this, we will have that edited into this to kind of show some of the crop damage and sort of what some of that looks like. Brant, talk a little bit about, you were in the house, your wife was on a Zoom call, the storm starts, what happens then?
I stood and watched it like I normally do for, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes probably. And after that, I was absolutely terrified. I grabbed my wife, we went downstairs, and we stood there for 15 minutes and just watched everything go to hell.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What as far as, your friends and places you've been and what you've seen, talk a little bit about that too.
So, well, 9 years ago, there was a derecho that went through here, not here as much, but further south in Dysart, Iowa, and about 8 miles south of there, destroyed their farms, and it just happened again on Monday. So all the friends that cleaned up in 2011, they're doing it all again today. And I helped a friend of mine on Tuesday, 2 friends of mine on Tuesday, one just a tree, the other one his shop, his machine shed, his corn crib, his house, all of his trees, everything, it's gone. It's just destroyed.
Wow.
And then another friend lost their entire grain setup. That's another thing. The local elevators have lost all of their capacity, some to the south. It's gone. and so did the farmers. So that's the true problem.
Right.
Where's the grain going to go?
Right, and that was going to be my next question. Getting to that part of it is, you know, and that's one of the questions that we keep getting from producers too. Is, well, the crop's damaged, so you wouldn't need maybe as much space, but on the same token, the crop's not zero. You
Right.
know, there's areas obviously where it's devastated to zero, but there's also a lot of areas where I think we're still going to have, you know, we were setting up for a pretty darn good crop, even though, you know, some of these areas were really dry, but we were still probably setting up for 150 to 220, 230, 240 bushel corn.
Yep.
So if you take, say, 20%, 30% off the top of that,
Yep.
you're still going to have a lot of bushels to deal with. And so basis is going to be an issue. Just handling, are you hearing anybody talk about, you know, what's the solution? Because I know one thing you told me, you know, what, half an hour later you bought another 12-reel corn head.
Yep.
So you could, you know, because you know harvest is going to be a slow process. So you guys accomplished that, but what about bin space for these guys?
Well, for the guys that lost their grain setups, can they go to the processor? I don't know. The processor can only process so much grain every day.
Right.
And they already have other stuff going on.
Yeah.
So, but the next problem is drying the grain, because we're going to have to go out and get this corn as soon as we possibly can.
Right.
We're going to be harvesting 30% corn, and I'm sure we're going to be harvesting most of the season that way.
Right.
And their grain dryers are gone too.
Right.
Well, you can't throw that grain in a bag and sit it on the ground and hope for it to be okay, because it's not going to be.
Right.
So I don't know what their answer is. I know there's a large co-op, Mid-Iowa co-op, that has guaranteed their customers that they will have storage for them this year. Now, what that really looks like at this point, it's hard to say.
They must have a really good contingency plan.
Yeah. So evidently they're going to put up a 2.5 million bushel pile on one of their facilities, and they're going to get their bins rebuilt, supposedly, and go from there.
So like you said, you know, I've heard a lot of people talking about going to the bags, and that being a pretty good solution probably for a lot of people. The problem is, like you said, is if you have to go start getting this stuff and it's, you know, maybe not 30%, but even if it's 25, 24%, you still got to probably need to be looking at drying this stuff down some. That's going to be a major issue, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be a huge issue. We are so fortunate in this area. Yeah, we lost a building. Yes, we have bin damage. Yes, all of our corn is damaged. My house sustained a little bit of damage. Everybody's alive. Nobody was injured in this area at all. And I still have most of my storage, and I have a grain dryer. There's a lot of guys that can't say that.
Yeah, and the dryer is the key piece right now.
Yep.
So what do you think on basis? You know, this is something that we've been talking with Dwayne on all of our podcasts and stuff. We've talked about, you know, the need for paying attention to basis and watching that really close. What's your thought on that? Is that, I mean, you guys have bushels that are going to have to go that won't fit in storage, or do you got room, you think?
I don't think that this year is going to be as big of an issue. Generally, we will haul a fair amount off the farm and just go to a local elevator. They've always been really good. They have contracts with Cargill. We can take full rails, as many rail cars as we want, and we can play the basis game with them on that direction.
Right. So a lot of the guys, though, they're probably, if they do know they're going to have to be taking this stuff, you know, away and getting it to the processor or wherever they need to go, they're going to need to be watching basis and probably be thinking about getting that locked in now.
Basis contracts it didn't make me a lot of money, but I didn't lose near as much this year with my final bushels and things of that sort. So I don't know. I think it's a good idea to be looking at it for sure.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that people need to be cognizant of too is just the fact that we're probably going to have a lot of areas where the corn wasn't affected, but the basis will be affected, because this is going to amplify out well past the areas where the storm damage is. So if you're 20 miles north, south, east, west of damage, in all likelihood there will be a basis impact at some point probably.
Yeah, because the processes are going to be flooded, and they're going to try to get you to stay away for a while.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything I didn't ask? I mean, you guys went through hell, but you missed you're kind of on the edge of hell, I guess you could say. You know, unfortunately.
Well, what really upset me the most, to be honest with you, is on Sunday afternoon, one of my best friends brought me an old grain bin to make a grain bin gazebo, and I didn't have it tied down.
Oh no!
And the son of a bitch is east of my house, about a half a mile in the cornfield. So,
Oh,
but
man.
and you know, for a little bit of levity there.
Yeah.
But
And that's an important bend. One
we-
that you can put some alcohol in.
yeah,
That we can
that's
kind
what
of
that was the plan. We were going to party.
our sorrows
Yeah,
a little bit.
for sure. Yep.
But no, I think your point on everybody being alive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we do this for our families. We do this because we love what we do.
Yep.
And appreciate your time
Absolutely.
and thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, we've gotten more calls, more texts, wondering what's going on, and this is the first of a few we want to do, and
Yep.
appreciate you being the first and
Yep.
getting your story out. And
Yeah. And if anybody is looking for something to do, and I know we're all busy, we're trying to get ready for harvest. Cedar Rapids, Iowa is destroyed, and they could use any help that they could get.
yeah, and that's for sure. We drove through Cedar Rapids last night, and it was dark.
Yep.
No electricity yet, and that was Thursday night. Today's the 13th of August, and
Yes.
what was that? 4 days later, and they still don't have power.
Yeah. And it could be weeks, is what they're saying.
We
So,
were en route to Illinois, and we met, I don't know, 3 convoys, I think, of trucks, and
Yeah.
I would imagine that's probably where they were heading, is they were this
Yep.
part of Iowa.
Yeah, they were coming from the north yesterday, coming past here as well.
Yeah.
Out of Minnesota and the Dakotas and such.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's great to see.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
All right, Brant, hey, thanks, bud.
You bet,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Yep. And thanks, everybody, for listening and viewing and watching, and we will catch you next time on the AgView Pitch.